Hello and welcome to Pivotal People. Today we're going to be speaking to Mark Tops. Mark is the Regional Business Manager for ECL. He's also the co-founder of Care in View. Hello Mark, it's really nice of you to join us on Pivotal People, and I'm really interested to know your story. So we want to first of all find out a little bit about what you're doing now. Tell me about your current business or businesses, and what you're doing within those businesses at the moment. What's going on?
Yeah, so firstly, thank you very much for having me. So at the moment, I'm in a regional business manager role, so working for Essex Cares, working within Reablement services, so overseeing 3 of the contracts with 3 different local authorities for the organisation, mainly in a stakeholder management role, and working directly with our corporate services just to make sure those levers are pulled at the right time in terms of recruitment, IT, marketing, so that actually for our operational teams, they've got everything they need from the corporate backup. And then alongside that, I've got the Care in View, which is the online social care platform aimed to hopefully upskill, educate and celebrate all things social care.
Fantastic. So your main job, your 9-to-5 job, what do you really enjoy about that job? What is it that inspires you about that job?
I think for me, 2 aspects. So I think firstly, Reablement is regaining independence for the individuals that we're supporting, and predominantly they're older individuals. I think I've worked in care homes and I've worked in home care, and I think there's a place for all of them. And I think there is a shift at the moment in terms of that intermediate care space. And I think it's been refreshing to go back into Reablement. I worked in the space when I was probably about 23, 24. And it's not really changed drastically, but I think actually just hearing the stories, those case studies of how somebody might have come in requiring assistance of 2 carers, leaving independently, the compliments from family members, from the individuals we support about actually how it's prolonged their, the quality of their life, how, the anxiety of having to move into a care home, but actually they're staying in their own home, which is what they wanted. And I think the other side of it is still working in operations, which I absolutely love. And I think one thing people say to me is, oh, are you going to open your own business? When are you going to do this? And actually, I love being operational in a role that I know is going to pay the bills every month, but supporting a team, but still having that kind of overall control in what happens within those services.
Yeah. And that team that you have working with you, the team that are working on site, how have you developed that team? How have you been involved in developing that team?
So I think when I started 4.5 years ago, it was a very different team. And I've got 3. One of them's very new. It's a new contract with one. But I'm thinking about kind of the longest one that we've had as an organisation. It was a very toxic place to work. You could feel you cut the atmosphere with a knife, and it wasn't a nice place to be for the carers that were coming into the office, for the office staff, for me visiting, for anybody really there. And I think it's really listening to the manager about kind of what their concerns are, what their challenges are, upskilling them in their knowledge, in their training, in their development, but also alongside that, listening to the concerns and what the other people in the office think could work and what doesn't work, but also the frontline staff. And it's not an overnight. And I think sometimes when we talk about it, it sounds like you can take it from A to B in a few months. Actually, it's probably taken the best part of 4 years to get to where actually I thought actually we're in a really good place. And I think sometimes it's hard because you have the CQC come in, and we did, and we got a good, and we had an outstanding in one element. But actually, for me and for the rest of manager, we knew we could be a lot better than what that piece of paper was telling us.
Yeah.
So I think it's doing what is the right thing, as opposed to, oh, we've ticked the box, we can carry on plateauing like this. But also for the retention side of things,
Absolutely.
you had staff leaving, weren't leaving under, a happy environment. I wanted staff to be leaving because they were going on within their careers.
Bigger and better.
Not because they weren't happy with the company they were working for.
Yeah. And I think it's funny you say that, because in our experience at Fulcrum, a lot of the times we go into care homes that are struggling and that have had certainly compliance problems. And very often we find that toxicity within that environment, which has sort of led to that happening. But what you're saying is there is still, you've still managed to get the compliance right, which is difficult when you have got that under the surface stuff going on.
Absolutely. I think the other challenge is obviously recruitment and retention. And obviously we had a high retention rate, so people were leaving quicker than they were joining. But it was the worry of, actually, if we get rid of the people that are toxic, that we don't want here, that don't share our values, are we going to be able to recruit? And it's probably taken 3.5 years to recruit the right people. We've had people that we've recruited that just aren't right for the organisation, that have gone back out the other end. And it's that continuous churn. But for the frontline staff, the continuity of managers just hasn't been there. You know, some of them have had 6-7 managers in, 4 years, which I know I wouldn't like. And trying to put that, reflect how I would feel if I had 6-7 managers and how they feel. But
So you've done a lot of work there and got that to a place that it's now good. And I think the other thing is from what we do at Fulcrum, the other stuff you do is really interesting. There's some really good stuff out there that is guiding and educating our leaders and our managers in compliance. Just tell us a little bit about that and what you're doing for the support, really.
Yeah, so I think that was born mainly out of the pandemic in terms of some of that awareness and some of that championing for both for frontline staff during the pandemic, but also the people that I was supporting at the time. I think when I put on my old registered manager hat and how time poor I was, and there were no resources back then, actually to have a resource and kind of taking me out of it, even if it was somebody else's resource, just to have a resource that is free, that's easy to listen to. You can listen to it in the car, you can watch it at your desk, you can kind of have it on in the background, you can have it on a podcast, you can watch it, whatever, and then all the free resources that go around with it. Plus, people can contact us via our platforms, they can contact me directly for support, which we have all the time. Actually, I wish I had that when I was a registered manager, because there wasn't that.
Yeah.
And I know when I speak to managers, actually, they find that really valuable. And I think sometimes I'm in a difficult place where, do we continue it? Because it's been 4 years, and is there somebody else that could do that? And we have a lot of people contact us around, actually, we really want to do this. And I'm always like, well, if you want to do it, then do it. But it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. And I think some people don't realise the amount of time it takes. But then when I do speak to people, they're like, no, do not stop it, because we get so much from it.
Yeah. I think it is really important. And I think as a registered manager myself in the past, having that external support, really, that's nothing to do with CQC or the local authority or your providers, but it's somebody out there that you can get that information from, and people that are working in the same environment you are. And I think it's always been good when we've had provider and manager forums with in the area, that we can go in and just talk to other people that are doing what we do. It's a massive job being a registered manager. It really is, and it is the heart and soul of the organisation that you're managing. So very important that they do get that support that they need. Okay. I just want to take you back a little bit further now.
Yeah.
Can we go back and tell me about your childhood? Where did you grow up? And tell me a little bit about you as a young boy.
So grew up in Essex. Well, I say Essex, but it's actually the outskirts of London.
Okay.
Grew up, my mum didn't work, looked after me and my 2 brothers. Dad was a policeman. Had a really good childhood. I was very fortunate enough that, we had a summer holiday, we had a winter holiday. School was really good. Couldn't have asked for a better childhood when I kind of reflect back, and I can compare it to kind of friends now when we talk about kind of growing up in bits and pieces. I think as I got older as a child, I always wanted to be a vet. Even from a young age, that's all I ever wanted to do. It's what I studied at college, was animal care. It's kind of the trajectory that I wanted to go into. And I kind of just fell into social care, if I'm completely honest. There was a care home just down the road that needed volunteers.
Yeah.
I was 17. My mum was, said, oh, there's a care home down the road, why don't, and it wasn't anything that was ever on my radar. I'd never even, people with learning disabilities, people with mental health, they'd never been on my radar before. But yeah, I joined that care home, supporting people to go to the cinema, to go to college, do all things that I would have been doing at that age anyway. And I didn't see it as a job. I saw it as a bloody good time, and I loved it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I deferred going from university.
Yeah.
And when I turned 18, got a job there. And yeah, I never looked back. And I can't imagine working in animal care now, if I'm completely honest, because I love social care. It's who I am.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, that is, you'd be surprised. We hear a lot of people that use that same thing. I fell into care. And it's one of those things that we're very lucky to have fallen into care, because it is the most amazing place to be around people that need our support, and that we can improve their quality of life. But yeah, so you do you think there's the change between being a vet and going into care for people? Yeah, they're
both caring.
Yeah, it's funny. I've got a very good friend, who is a GP, and his son is a vet. And we always think the veterinary surgeon has had it harder because nobody can communicate with him. But also he's got to be out in the cold weather doing all sorts of stuff. But yeah, it's very different. But caring is something that once it's in your blood, it doesn't come out, does it?
No.
If you're the right sort of person that goes into that. So what about your dad was a policeman?
Yes.
So how was that? It's what you know. It's all you've known, isn't it? That's an interesting background as well, to be working within the police service. And so was he? Did he talk about his work? Did he inspire you at all? Did you ever want to be a policeman?
It was a very strict upbringing in terms of,
He knew what was out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when I look back, and even when I went to friends' houses, I used to think, God, I wish I lived here, because it's just not, we don't have all of this at home, having dinner on your lap in front of us, like we would never have done that as children. Didn't discuss work that much. Okay. I think as older, I moved out when I was 21, but kind of in those kind of later teen years, as I got more interested in kind of what he did, I think his role within the police had evolved into kind of a lot of more undercover work. So he couldn't talk about work. Mm-hmm. So I do think that, and I'm very honest with him now, it did impact in terms of what do you actually do, but you can't talk about it.
Yeah, sure.
My brother, ironically, is now in the Met Police, so obviously rubbed off on one of us, but didn't rub off on me. It's not something I would ever envisage doing.
No, tough job, very tough job. Okay, so looking for the future now. So where you are now, you're doing. Sounds like you're doing what you love doing.
Yeah.
So what about the future? What do you see the future of your career? The way your career is going to go in the future?
It's a hard one. And I think a lot of people speak to me about what do you want to do in the future. I'm generally happy in the here and the now doing what I do. I think I love the role I'm in. I love the teams that I've got. I really like the organisation and the values and everything that goes with it, plus the support for doing things like this and doing the caring view, which I'm always conscious of if I change roles, in terms of I've worked for organisations in the past that haven't liked me doing, even doing bits on social media. So I'm always conscious of that. I think I'm always conscious as well of having a role where I've not got the control over making those choices, but one that's not surrounded by red tape, in terms of actually if a staff member comes to you with an idea, you haven't got to jump through 100 hoops before you can roll that out. You can actually make those changes, have that direct impact. If something comes out from the regulator or a complaint and it's a lessons learned, you can implement that really quickly, as opposed to it being loads of people around a table, meeting after meeting, before something actually happens.
Yeah, have somebody right at the top that's sort of 20 or 30 times removed from us making the overall decisions on things. And I think actually giving your registered managers the autonomy as well, being able to give them autonomy to come up with ideas, because they're the ones in it, they're the ones living that organisation. Okay, so the future is pretty much more of the same, but expanding on what you're doing now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it gives me I don't think anybody's got a good work-life balance. I've spoken before many times about that. I think that's illusion, but it does allow me to do the school drop-off if I want. It allows me to pick up my kids when I want, and I can flex in between the day. So, I think at the moment, it gives me what I need for myself, as well as giving back to obviously doing the job and good outcomes for staff, good outcomes for the people we support.
Yeah, good, good. So if your children came to you and said, Dad, I want to be a carer, how would you react to that?
It wouldn't be the first sector I would push them into, if I'm completely honest. None of them want to go into care. They know what I do. I mean, funny enough, they remember kind of pre-COVID going into, not my youngest, but definitely my older two, going into the care home that I was managing. And they used to love going into the kitchen with the chef and going into the laundry and doing all the bits and just spending time with the residents. And it's one thing they say now, can I come to work? And I'm like, well, you can, but it's just an office. But it's very boring.
It's not quite so much fun, is it?
No. I think in terms of as a career choice, and when I speak to students at secondary schools, it's a fantastic career to get into. And I use myself as an example. A paid job at 18, in a manager's role at the age of 21. You can't do that in many other sectors. In terms of changing the culture of an organisation, and I know a lot of that comes with age and experience, but actually, if you've got a good head on your shoulders, actually you can have a team that is delivering the care that should be delivered for the right reasons, and you can really shape that organisation and the culture there. But you can't do that in a lot of other sectors.
No, you can't. You can't. And a lot of other sectors, you've got to work for quite a few years, getting degrees and qualifications before you can move anywhere near them. And I think you're right. This is one of the organisations you can go straight into, and you can, if you work hard and you happen to have the right breaks and you're in the right place at the right time, you can really make a difference.
Absolutely. And I think there are so many providers out there, and I speak to a lot of senior care workers that want to take that next step, or deputies. Actually, you might have to come away from the organisation you work for. I'm not saying that you can't ever go back, but actually there's thousands of providers out there, probably all within your local area. Just, that's what I did, normally every 3-4 years. Not by me sitting down thinking, oh, it's got 3-4 years, I'm going to leave. But just because actually naturally it was ready to take the next step into my career. But actually so many other people can do that and get up that career ladder really quickly if that's what you want to do.
Yep, I'm sure everyone out there is going to be really, really interested in that. And thank you very much for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Lovely, thank you.
Thank you.